Well, hey, and welcome to the Creative Corner podcast. My name is Noah Black. I'm the host, and I'm so grateful you jumped in. So if you're tuning in through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever you're jumping in from, so thankful. If you want to keep up with content like this, be sure to subscribe and keep up to date with everything we have going on. And I have with me an incredible guest. He's on call with me. He's the vocalist from an incredible metal band called Convictions. It is Michael Felker. So, bro, thank you so much for joining me, man.
Hey, what's going on, man? Thanks for the awesome intro there.
For sure. So I remember I had heard about you guys through a friend of mine, Wesley Moore, who did a ton of shows with back in the day. And remember him being like, man, these guys are the bomb. They're like the coolest band ever. And I remember going and checking out you guys' music and being like, my goodness, like you guys are insane. And so it was really cool how to be able to hear you guys' music and how incredibly talented and skillful in just the musicianship, but then also obviously the message behind your music as well. And so just kind of tell me a little bit about how you guys got started. I know you're from Ohio. And so just kind of like diving into a little bit of whenever you guys formed together.
I really appreciate all that, man. Yeah, Wesley's awesome. I've been buddies with him for a while. It's cool meeting people like him on tour. To try and circle back to your question there, I joined Convictions 2013, right after they finished their first EP, I Am Nothing. So I jumped right in after that had just dropped. So, like I mentioned, they put out their debut EP, I Am Nothing, 2012, I want to say. After I got a call from Zach, who I had auditioned for his previous band. He had a smaller band before then, Run in the Shadows. In my local band, we played shows together like all throughout the early 2000s, I guess mid 2000s. And from there, we kept in touch. He had reached out to me 2012 and had brought up, if I wanted to audition for this band Convictions that he had started up, and they had just done their first national tour. Right. Their older vocalist, and he, him and I kept in touch throughout the years, and he reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to either start a new band with him and Josh, right, or continue with Convictions. And at that point in my life, I had just become a born again Christian, so I was really eager to step into that position as a musician, and I remember strongly urging them to continue Convictions and that I'd love to audition, and from there we just hit the ground running.
Yeah, that's so cool. And so from those beginning stages, I know you had mentioned like you just mentioned how that was like you just become a born again Christian and we're learning more about that space. And so for you guys, I know you guys hold that like mantra of you talk about your aggressive worship. And so for you guys, I know you don't just play around, like you don't just play like churches or around just a ton of Christian bands. Like you're in a lot of different shows, being able to open up for a lot of incredible bands and play headlining shows with some other bands who necessarily don't carry that same message. Have you experienced, or you guys as a whole experienced any like adversity from that? What types of conflict can come from that? But then also, what type of benefits do you find from it, being able to hold that, or just saying, hey, like we're very open about our faith in our music, but we also, man, we love what we get to do with music.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tug and pull. I think for a band like us, we don't necessarily have a conventional Christian sound, I guess. Right. From a stepping away from a bigger picture. A lot of times we'll play some, like church events or festivals, and we stand out like a sore thumb, like older parents or, an older crowd is like, this doesn't sound Christian at all. And, and then they got these upside down cross shirts and things like this. So it was it can be a tug and pull. I would say as a whole, we prefer to, I guess from a business perspective, market ourselves in the secular scene, but we're deeply rooted in, our Christian roots and faith. 100%. And that is the cornerstone of what we do. But I guess it's a bit of tug and pull. Like when we do certain Christian events and stuff, it can be a bit abrasive. Like our sound being mixed in, like certain festivals where they're hitting every genre,
Right.
and it's a cool thing. I love standing out, and I love reaching that audience and showing other perspectives on our faith to
Right.
a Christian scene, but also we love playing secular audiences, and that's what we predominantly do.
Right.
Playing dive bars and normal everyday venues.
Yeah.
That's just kind of what we do, and I think it's a little more effective
Yeah.
to do what we want to do and give the message that we want to give to an audience that doesn't have maybe exposure to our beliefs.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's it's a bit of both.
Yeah. That's so cool, and I think it's a good mentality to have, and you guys I think have an incredible heart for that side of things, to where it's not just you would just go down the church event route. Like there's a heart behind what you do, and there's people that will connect with your message that I'm sure you guys have experienced before, of people that connect with your message and then wonder like, what is it about that I relate to so much, and then it creates opportunity for you guys to even go deeper with people. And so I think that's an incredible thing. And so you mentioned that you're playing with playing in like dive bars and doing all that. You guys were doing a ton of touring quite consistently from what I saw on social media. And then to now, like you have to pump the brakes big time with COVID. What has that been like, and how have you guys been handling that?
Oh man, it's been rough, and to say it's like been like rough, I feel like it's not fair. Like for like comparing ourselves to like frontline workers, people that are essential, and
Right.
like fighting for to make a difference with COVID. We're musicians, we're entertainers, but
Right.
it's still it's the bread and butter of what we do. Like touring is everything for us, and it's tough because we had just gone through a tough year before that, getting our lineups reorganized, situated with getting Dan into the fold, and our label situation, and all that on top of trying to get back on the road, and we had just finished a overseas tour and gotten back over here to do some heavy touring, and it was like right during the pandemic had just kicked off, so we had to go home, and from there, luckily we all have great jobs that allow us to tour and do both. So we all pretty much just picked up full time with our home jobs, and
Right.
here I am at FedEx delivering packages and trying to keep myself busy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a challenge, but it could always be worse.
Yeah.
And we've been trying to stay optimistic and understand that there are priorities, and people's well-beings need to be put first, and it's not something to get upset about. It's just the deal. This is the hand we're dealt, and let's make it work. So we've been writing and staying busy and trying to keep new music coming out for us.
Yeah. That's huge, man. And I think it's a really big thing that for a lot of people, especially in music, they're having to find some sort of avenue right now. Like they're having to really crank down on their side hustles, because touring was their thing. And so definitely like it's good to hear that you guys like have been able to get that taken care of, that side of stuff. But I know there's that itching inside of all of you, I'm sure, to like, man, I'm ready to get back out on the road and be doing some stuff. So
Yeah, you have no idea. It's like all I can think about. So I'm just trying to keep us as busy as we can.
Yeah.
Before we get back out there, it's like all I can think about, really.
For sure. Yeah, and just to dive into a little bit of you guys' music, I remember the first project I listened to in its full was the I Will Become album. And I remember listening to it and was like, man, these guys, like, for real, like, you guys are crushing it, like, killing it. And then I remember listening to track by track and being like, man, the production quality is incredible. But the lyricism is what I'm drawn to. Like, I love the side of things that's really like cool instrumentation and all of that, but I love the lyricism that comes with that. And so, as the band, like who all normally does a lot of songwriting, and then what does it look like for you guys to get together? Like, are you all separately working on something pretty consistently, and then you just come together and try and form it, or how does that normally work whenever you go to put together a project?
Yeah, it's definitely a all hands on deck kind of thing.
Right.
I'll typically we'll put together a song with as far as like the lyrics or a concept, and then from there it's a trickle down effect. Usually, this is usually how it'll go. Like we'll all work together. It's all hands on deck when it comes to the final lyrics, and everyone has an input. And now that we're working with new producer Andrew Wade, he definitely has a a large say in direction and the overall concept of the lyrics and so forth. He'll definitely have his hand in that, and so it's all hands on deck. But usually, I'll start with an idea or a concept, and with our new material, these are all true stories and interviews that I've done with some close friends to try and retell their stories.
Wow.
With as much input as I can get from them via interview, phone call, FaceTime, whatever I can to try and honor the source material as much as I can. So
it's exciting. That's really, really cool to hear, like where that concept is coming from, especially for the new music. And so it's speaking of that new music, you guys just had a new single drop. And so tell me a little bit about that song, constructing it, and then like the lyrics behind it, and then for the viewer listening, how they can check that out.
Yeah, this one is pretty challenging. It's tough to talk about. Like I want to be enthusiastic and over the moon about how excited we are, because we are, but the subject matter is challenging. Like
right.
This is a true story about a friend of ours that we lost to suicide, and we're retelling the events through the eyes of his best friend, who we all as a band know, because these two people would come out to our shows all over the country. So all throughout last year, 2020, I was interviewing a good buddy of mine. His name's CJ, and our fan base will get to know him because we'd recently put together some like mini documentary type projects for like promotional material, but we wanted to retell his story. So we're going to be talking about him a little more as a band here in the near future. But basically what I was doing was putting together interviews, scheduling phone calls, and corresponding with our good buddy CJ, who was a fan of ours. And basically what I was doing is just retelling his story through his eyes and trying to retell his experience going through the 5 stages of grief. So that's the bread and butter, the price of grace. And this is a new sound for us, working with a new producer. I know sonically, like Josh is putting together new soundscapes and playing with new ways of playing guitar. And it's just like a whole new thing for us, and we're so excited about it. But like I said, it's like a weird thing to be like, check out our new song, it's sick. This is the brand new us, and we love it. Like we hope you do too. But at the same time, it's like, but this is a really serious topic, and we really wanted to honor our friend here. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's like that weird middle ground where we want to be pumped and enthusiastic and add exclamation points at the end of every sentence that we put out for this. But it's it's tough, man. And there's real people that are going through stuff that really want to share their input and their stories, and I don't want to be insensitive with enthusiasm, I guess.
It totally makes sense, man. And I remember listening to it once it dropped. I remember being very, very like very shocked, for one, by the sound, because you're very right. It's a very different sound for you guys, but I was shocked in a very good way. But just like topic matter for me, like I had experienced just a few years back, I'd experienced a very close friend of mine who had committed suicide. And so I remember listening to it and then like remembering that experience but then also there's this sense of relativity with it. And I think that music plays a big role in that, of whenever you can relate to something that somebody is saying, there's this sense of like, man, I'm not the only person going through this. And so even if it is the darker toned content, it's whenever you can relate that there's a sense of healing for some people. And I know for me, there's been people who have poured into my life and spoken into that situation, and it's been very very incredible to just kind of learn from and see what types of positives can come from a situation from that. But ultimately, there's moments like this of sitting and listening to a song made by you guys that's just like, man, being able to relate to this helps so much. And so I think that authenticity plays a huge role in why so many people love you guys and support you guys. And so I definitely, from a personal standpoint, I appreciate you guys for writing a song like that and being willing to kind of get into the gross stuff that comes with life. So
thanks for that. And, that's the idea, is to build a community, people that have had these shared experiences, over a number of topics that we're going to, hopefully go into effectively with this new release. But, I'm really sorry to hear about your friend, that's a big deal, and that's a tough pill to swallow, is going through something like that. And I think the overall objective here is to hopefully pull people together with shared experiences to, strengthen the community. Because when we're on tour, we meet so many different people that have real life struggles, and they want to, share their stories, and they want to connect with others. And, music is such a powerful tool, and we want to do everything we can to, hopefully contribute, to other people's lives, not just to mosh and get heavy and get crazy, Of course we love that. And, it's what we do, but
for sure,
we want to add substance, and we want to, hopefully bring people together with their stories.
Yeah.
And I think we watch a lot of those reaction videos that people have been posting about our song, and how they feel about it. And one thing that really stood out to me was someone said it's heavy on purpose. And I was like, that is exactly what we're trying to do, is hopefully there's a reason to be heavy. There's a reason to be angry. There's a reason to shout and to have that aggression. And that's what we, try and tie in with the music, hopefully people can hear this and say, yes, this is exactly how I feel. And I'm not alone. That's the best thing that we can hope for.
Yeah. That's so huge, man. I love that a ton. And to dive into that, for people who are dealing with, like, in that space of dealing with mental health issues and are really struggling with whether it's depression or anxiety or even to the extent of thoughts of suicide, what's some sort of encouragement that you would offer, or maybe even a next step for somebody dealing with that, of, hey, what can I do in that if I'm dealing with that? What's a word of encouragement you would give?
Yeah, well, to go back to what I was saying before, is community.
Yeah.
Talking about it.
Yeah.
Opening discussion. That's the whole thing we're trying to do here, is make a platform.
Yeah.
For community and discussion. I think there's a lot of, not to pigeonhole ourselves to just men here, but I know that there's a large group of men that will meet, and that are out there that can't talk about their feelings, or they have this stereotypical macho,
like supposed to have it all together type mentality.
I don't know the word I'm looking for here, but they stigma, maybe, like there's this stigma.
100%.
There's this stigma, that men can't talk about their feelings. You're supposed to bury it and keep it down and hold it together and be a tough guy, and that's great. But there's also a time and place to express yourself, and I think it's appropriate to do that, and to have some type of community where you can talk about how you're feeling and what you're going through. And there's so many guys that don't get that chance, and tragically, it's that's the end of it. And it's not okay. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, we meet a lot of guys like that at these shows,
Yeah.
and it's not just guys; it's everybody, really. You know, there's so many people that are struggling with sharing how they feel and looking
Yeah.
for, you know, a place to share that voice, and it doesn't get met. So
Yeah.
we want to encourage people to share how they feel,
Yeah.
and to be okay with that, you know, to be comfortable with that. And there's so many people. There's always somebody that wants to listen, and there's so many resources, and
Yeah.
a lot of people don't have that or don't know that, and that's
Right.
you know, you just want to share that awareness.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge, man. And I think that's a crucial point for people. I just had a friend of mine on the podcast recently that talked about the importance of being able to reach out, and like you said, the word community, like having people around you, and even to the extent of, especially right in the Christian space, there's a lot of times that there's people that are just like, hey, just pray about it and it'll go away. Like that's people's go-to. When in reality, some people, there's times where some people do need to go through therapy. Like therapy is, you know, it can be a very helpful thing, as well as if there's medication some people need to be on. Like you don't want to become reliant solely on medication. And there's definitely opportunity that you can learn through placing your trust in Jesus that definitely helps give next steps and direction. But just using that cop out of, oh, just pray about it and then it's fine. I think it's huge, man, to be able to have that community. I think that's a great point that you bring up.
Definitely. You know, that's a whole rabbit hole of a discussion. With,
That could be a whole separate podcast.
yeah, you know, like there's that. I don't know how to tell this analogy, but there's an analogy of where, like, you know, people are praying. You know, just pray about it. Just pray about it. You know, like God. You know, and then there's that person that's like, well, God isn't listening. You know, and then there's the analogy of like, well, if you're going downstream, you're in the rapids and you're gonna drown. And you're like, God, please get me out of this. You know, I'm gonna drown here. I can't. You know, I need help.
Yeah.
And then a log floats by, and then you're like, well, God, get me out of this. Pick me up. Get me. You know, and then and then a floating tire goes by, and then a life raft goes by, and you're like, God, why aren't you getting me out of this? And then a boat goes by, and then you're like, God, finally you drown. And God's like, you didn't see all the things I was trying to give to you to get you out of there.
Yeah.
You know, it's not always some supernatural cloud parting experience. Sometimes the answers can be right in front of you, and God's trying to do that. You know, that's something I don't know what church I heard that at, but I thought it was really interesting that God can speak to you in so many different ways, and you need to basically have open ears and open eyes to Him.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that you guys being, once again, just being open and vulnerable in your songwriting with topics that deal with some pretty dark things, I think that there, like we mentioned, there's hope there. And so know that I'm sure you know way better than I do that there's people that really are inspired by you guys and are inspired by your music and are able to find. I see some things that you guys have shared on social media in the past, and just like people's lives being impacted by you guys being willing to be vulnerable. And so for like you guys are doing an incredible job. And so I'm excited you've dove in and talked about a little bit of, you know, you guys are preparing new music and stuff. And so I'm excited for sure of what that looks like for you guys. And so with that, what have you found, whether it be through other musicians or just people around you, who's those people that you take a lot of inspiration from, that you kind of look up to, whether it be as a songwriter or a musician or just as a person? Who are some of those big key people?
Well, first off, I really appreciate that. It's very encouraging. Genuinely, like that's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, like as far as inspiration, like we get it from other people. Like we meet so many genuine people that have big hearts, and they go through things, and they have these traumatic experiences, and they overcome it. Who doesn't love a good underdog story, you know?
Yeah.
That's so inspiring to me. You know, just meeting people that with different walks of life and backgrounds that, you know, are able to overcome, you know, adversity and you know, big experiences. That's so inspiring to us. And that's not to not to shamelessly plugging our new material here, but that's exactly what we're doing here. We're trying to tell other people's stories. The next song we're putting out is about a good friend of ours who struggles with PTSD and has served overseas and has seen some traumatic things, and trying to retell his story as a civilian, someone that hasn't experienced it, has been a challenge, but it's been very eye-opening.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's sharing other people's stories. It's meeting people like that, who've gone through something, insane, and trying to retell that. That's the idea of what we're trying to do with our new material.
Yeah,
and it's very inspiring meeting so many different people.
Yeah,
and having that opportunity with touring is such a blessing, and I feel, it's the only way we can really give back is just trying to, retell, other people's stories that we made. So it's such an awesome thing.
Yeah, that's huge, man. And I think that's so impactful and for real. Like, I think that there's so much that there is to look forward to with a group like you guys. The way that you write songs and stuff. I speak on behalf of myself personally, but I know there's going to be people jumping in, specifically because they're excited to hear from you and to hear from what's to come from Convictions. And so I'm freaking pumped, man. And so really excited to hear what you guys put out next, man. So just in conclusion, just to kind of wrap up, how can people stay connected with you personally, whether it be through social media, all that kind of stuff, staying connected with the band? And then how can they check out? I know you mentioned we talked about the Price of Grace, and then what's to come next from the band. And so how can people stay connected with all of that you guys are getting involved in?
Yeah, the best resources, I would say, just through our social media. The band's Instagram is pretty good. We try and stay on top of all our messages and comments and things like that. That would be the direct best way. I know, with COVID, all of us personally, we're so swamped with our jobs, and we try and stay busy, in our personal lives working. But the band is definitely the best way to do it. And I would say appropriately, that's, the best way to contact us.
Yeah.
And, to get that hand-to-hand attention is definitely I would recommend that.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as our personals, we're all, trying to keep up and post as much as we can on, our new material. And, there's such a big community. It spiderwebs into so many different directions, whether it's podcasts like this, or, direct comments in our messages, for YouTube or, whatever it is, we try and stay on top of it.
Yeah.
But I would say probably our band's Instagram or recently YouTube, because we are posting all of our, our new stuff through that.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome, man. And so just for the viewer or listener who's either A, they're tuning in because they want to keep up with what you guys are doing, or B, that's tuning in just because they may be intrigued by the topic matter of, of mental health or whatever it may be. What would you say to the fans of you guys, as well as just the people jumping in? What's some closing words that you would give just to encourage them?
Yeah, if you're going through something, please reach out. Whether it's, there's so many phone numbers. There's so many people that want to hear from you if you're struggling. There's no shame in that. And I can tell you firsthand, if you're going through something, there is no shame reaching out to a loved one, a close friend, or even a hotline or a community group, whether it's online or, in your neighborhood. Please reach out. There's no shame in that. Yeah. And we want to strongly encourage you to do that. There's so much strength with vulnerability and being transparent. That's probably the best closing statement I can think of, is just being bold and telling your story and not being afraid of it.
Yeah.
And to encourage others to speak out on their struggles and, reach out and do that. Yeah. I hope I'm not being too redundant here, but that's really what we want to drive home is please speak out on, if you're going through something, you could definitely save a life or your life.
Yeah.
And we want to encourage that.
Yeah, that's huge, man. I love that. That's an incredible way. I couldn't think of any better way to be able to wrap up this podcast, man. But Mike, thank you so incredibly much for coming and hanging out with me, man, and just chatting with me. And for real, like super excited for what's to come for you guys and Convictions. And really, for sure, like know that you have a supporter here that like keeping up with your stuff, and really just enjoy being able to just chat about what you guys have going on. So thank you for real.
No, I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me and allowing us to use your platform.
Yeah.
Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, 100%, man. Well, hey, thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Creative Corner podcast. Once again, be sure to subscribe, keep up with content that's to come, as well as keep up with Mike and the rest of the guys in Convictions. We look forward to what's to come from them. Thank you guys so much for jumping in, and we'll see you next week.